Hello YouTube and welcome new subscribers. We have, I'm going to do an introduction and explanation of all the titles I have in my PlayStation 3 collection. So I think we got maybe 20, 30, 40 titles here. We'll go through and get started. Okay, so these are alphabetized. I have some grouped by alike titles. Like I have all the Street Fighter 4s together, even though some start with, I think you get Street Fighter 4 and then Super Street Fighter 4, some other things. What else do we have here? We've got a few other things that are grouped together, and you'll see as we go through the collection here. So we're starting off the beginning of the alphabet, which is numbers. So we have 3D Dot Game Heroes. This is a top-down. This is basically like a new version of Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past with voxel graphics and some, special things. This is by Atlas. I think the development was done by From Software, which is the company behind Demon Souls and Dark Souls. Basically, if you just think of Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past, that's what this game is, with these retro, blocky, 3D cube voxel type graphics. This game I remember being pretty fun. I don't think I ever beat it. It's obviously there's not much of the story isn't all that great. It's mainly just you're playing it because it's a retro, top-down kind of game like that. Up next we have the Batman Arkham Asylum. These are the newer Batman games that were done by Rocksteady Studios. They use the Unreal Engine. They're basically third-person beat-em-ups, kind of like same style as, I guess, like a Dynasty Warriors game. I'm sure there's other games that people will compare it to, stuff I haven't really played that much, but, it's a 3D, third-person kind of game like that where you control the camera and you go around as Batman and you beat up criminals and take people down, stuff like that. It's kind of fun. I got the first two, which are Arkham Asylum and Arkham City. I did not buy the third one. Why did I not buy the third one? Because the third one is not by the same developer. It was the publisher trying to cash in on the name by issuing the license to another developer to make the next game in the series, and I don't like when publishers do that, so I choose with my wallet and do not buy the games when they're done by a different developer. See also the computer versions of the, some of the Call of Duty series. Like I only ever bought Call of Duty 4 and Modern Warfare 2. The later games in the series were done by a different developer, which is not cool. We have Bayonetta. This is a pretty far out there beat 'em up that's third person, 3D graphics. This is published by, I think, Sega. Not sure what else this guy has done. The key people behind this. This is developed by Platinum Studios. If anyone wants to leave a comment of some of the other games they've done. But this game kind of has a reputation of being some pretty far out there action. I think it's the same people that made Devil May Cry, but I could be wrong on that. This game I got maybe 20, 25 hours in. I don't think I ever beat it, and I was doing a lot of side mission stuff, but it was okay. Next up we have the Blaze Blue series. This is a fighting game series that is very colorful, well-animated 2D graphics. This is done by Arc System Works, which is the developer that made the Guilty Gear games. So they moved on from Guilty Gear, sort of, for a little bit. They started putting out some other stuff. They put out this series, which is Blaze Blue. I believe it's subtitled Calamity Trigger. The second game is Blaze Blue Continuum Shift. And then the third release is Blaze Blue Continuum Shift Extend. These are basically like what they did with the Guilty Gear games, where they had Guilty Gear X, Guilty Gear X2, and then all the other derivatives, which are basically, patches that they resell you the game, where you get more characters, more things you can do, stuff like that. So these are fun. They're very colorful, very technical kind of fighter. They're not easily approachable by a novice. It's not something like Soul Calibur where you can just mash the buttons as much. These do have a very thought out, very technical, complicated fighting system. Next we have Bionic Commando. I bought this when I bought my PlayStation 3 because I wanted to get a game for $10. This was pretty horrible. Capcom ruined one of my favorite, titles from the NES days by basically taking a tired third-person 3D game and basically slapping the Bionic Commando name. This game could have been called anything else other than Bionic Commando, and no one would have ever noticed its release. We have Borderlands 2. I have both of the Borderlands games on PC, which I prefer to play first-person shooters on the PC due to the controls. I bought this basically to play with people online. Next up, we have Brutal Legend. This is basically the quote-unquote the Jack Black game. This was developed by Double Fine Studios, which is Tim Schafer's company. He was a classic LucasArts developer from way back in the day who put out Grim Fandango and it's escaping me the name of some of the other things. Full Throttle, some other classic adventure games. They put this out recently. I think I got this. This was a $10 purchase. I also own this on computer. I have never played either of them, I'll be honest. I think it's a third-person hack and slash with music elements, but I could be wrong. At least based on the back of the box, that's what it looks like. But, I'll be honest, I didn't get into this. We have Child of Eden, which is a colorful kind of... I don't know what I can compare this to. It's from the creator of Rez and Lumines. Rez was a Dreamcast game that was issued on PlayStation 2 also, that was fairly rare, very esoteric, simple line art kind of graphics with a musical beat that infuses the gameplay. And it also says Lumines, and I have Lumines Plus on the PlayStation 2. This I don't think I ever played this, and it says it's PlayStation Move compatible, but that is optional. I think it's basically Rez with newer graphics. I think that's my understanding of what this is, so I'll have to put this on my to-do list of something to play. We have Dark Souls, which we'll talk about after we cover Demon Souls, which is coming up next. This is by From Software. These games are third-person RPGs known for their extreme difficulty level. We have Dead Space, which is in the running for one of the better new IPs of the 2000s, late 2000s, early 2010s. This is... I don't know who the developer is. It just has the EA name on it, which is not always a signal of quality with the modern stuff, but this game is pretty neat. It's basically, quote-unquote, Resident Evil in space. But this is a lot of fun. So we have Dead Space 1, we have Dead Space 2 Limited Edition, and we have Dead Space 3 Limited Edition. The first two are really good. The third one I bought but haven't played yet, but I've read quite a bit online saying that it is crap. So I'll have to play that someday and be the judge. And we have Demon Souls. Demon Souls is published by Atlus. It's developed by From Software. These are known for their brutal, relentless difficulty, and I've gotten pretty far into this game. Never beat it. I actually screwed something up and killed an NPC who is very helpful later in the game. There's basically a blacksmith or a smithy at one part of the game, and I accidentally hit him, and then he went aggressive on me, and I was forced to defeat the guy. And I guess that it doesn't end the game. It just basically, I guess, it can impact you later in the game where you can't upgrade your weapons as much. But this requires a lot of subsequent playthroughs of levels in order to level your character up. If you've never played these before, they're nearly impossible until you figure out what the unique rules are. Anytime you die, you basically restart as a ghost with half your health. You have to fight your way back to where your body is, and then if you reach your body where you died, you can reabsorb all the experience basically that you had from your previous life, and then your character gains full strength again. But it's relentlessly difficult, which is kind of a good thing, because a lot of games nowadays are too easy to beat, too easy to play. Next we have Deus Ex Human Revolution, which is Deus Ex 3. This is the Augmented Edition, which I received as a gift. I have not played. I don't know what else this comes with versus the regular edition, but probably just things like an art book and a soundtrack CD. I have this on computer and got a few hours into it, but the stealth games are just not my thing. I can understand why people like them, but I've just never really been able to get into the whole stealth game series. You know, it's just I find it restrictive of how I want to play the game. But we'll see. We have Devil May Cry 4 Collector's Edition. This was one of the first PlayStation 3 titles that I bought, and you can see that by the classic lettering on the spine. This is fun. It's it's over the top, beat 'em up, 3D kind of game. You know, I don't really go for the collector's edition bonus stuff. I never watch the DVD or anything like that, but I usually pick them up if there's not that much different in price. Next up, Disgaea 3, which, I said in one of the previous videos that I only had one NIS America game. I forgot about this one. I did not get too far into this. It's, very quirky. I always say that it's Final Fantasy Tactics-like gameplay, which is basically just means that it's a, grid-based, 3D, turn-based strategy game. These games have a lot of real quirky things that you can do. You can level up your characters different ways, but, unless you master the system that they use in the game, you're probably not going to have a lot of fun with these. We have DJ Hero and DJ Hero 2. These are the only two music games that I own on the current gen or PlayStation 3 console. I bought the first one with the controller as basically a closeout. It was on clearance at Best Buy, I think, for $20 with the controller, and then they had DJ Hero 2 for $10 to go with it. So I gave it a little bit of a try. It's by I don't know if this is actually by Harmonix or if they basically it looks like Activision just slapped the PlayStation, what am I trying to say here? Guitar Hero name on a new franchise. It's not the same kind of game, and it's kind of, unless you like hip-hop and techno music, you're probably not going to be a huge fan of these. Up next, we have Dragon's Crown. This is by Vanillaware, the development studio that made Muramasa the Dema Blade and Odin Sphere for PlayStation 2. Let's see if I can get this to focus a little bit. This is fun. This is a great game. This is a Final Fight style RPG beat 'em up. It's very reminiscent of the Capcom Dungeons & Dragons arcade games, which were Tower of Doom and Shadow over Mystaria, if I'm correct. Those are from the late 90s. This game is from 2013. This is a simultaneous release on PlayStation 3 and PlayStation Vita. I believe it's cross-play compatible. So it's basically, it's an arcade-style 2D graphics, side-scrolling beat-em-up game that has RPG, leveling, loot drops, and boss fights. This is a lot of fun. I wish I had some other people I could play this online with. Continuing on, we're going to look at the Dynasty Warriors games that I have, which include Dynasty Warriors Gundam, Dynasty Warriors Gundam 2, and Gundam 3. I'm a gigantic fan of the Dynasty Warriors series. I'm also a fan of the Mobile Suit Gundam anime, so this is kind of like a perfect storm for this kind of game. These are both, or the three of these are really, really fun. I think I remember playing the most of the second one. The first one is kind of limited in what you can do. There's a couple official story modes, and then there's also a free mode, which basically just creates an original story around all the characters in the game. The second one kind of hit the sweet spot for me, where it had a lot more things that you could do, and a lot more of the mobile suits of the characters that you could play as. The third game made it with cel-shaded graphics, I believe. But it's just basically more of the same. They just kind of build and build and build when they make these Dynasty Warriors games, where they have all the characters from the previous game and then they add another 20 every time a title comes out. But these were a lot of fun. I've definitely put a lot of hours on these. Beat them all with multiple characters. Didn't really unlock 100%, but that's not really my thing anyway. So we also have Dynasty Warriors 6, Dynasty Warriors 6 Empires. I didn't play a heck of a lot of Dynasty Warriors 6. They changed up the fighting system quite a bit. I think this is the one that had the Renbu system. Let me see if I can read that on the back here. Yeah, this is with the new Renbu attack system, which I think ruined it. It kind of took the classic Dynasty Warriors gameplay, which is basically just hit square, 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 and then you hit triangle to finish off your combo. they mixed this up where you could have these endless combos, and it didn't click for me. It didn't feel like the same kind of game. So this was the only title they used it for. When they released the next one, which was Dynasty Warriors 7, that did not have it. This was a return back to the classic style. I believe there is a Dynasty Warriors 7 Empires, but it is a download release only. It is not a physical release, so I do not have that. And then after that, we have Dynasty Warriors 8, which is the most recent one that came out in 2013. This game is a heck of a lot of fun. Continuing on, one thing I just wanted to note here is it looks like Koei's getting a little lazy on their packaging, because you can see that the familiar Dynasty Warriors font types and everything they've been using, the most recent ones on the spine, they're just kind of using normal, plain Jane, boring fonts. So maybe Koei's getting a little lazy. Maybe it also has to do with that there's less and less people buying these every time they release. I would not be surprised if the next game in the Dynasty Warriors series is download only. On the next stack, we're going to start out. We have Enslaved: Odyssey to the West, which is, I think, by Ninja Theory. Yeah, Ninja Theory. They were a developer that has made quite a few third-person games. I think they had some PlayStation 3 launch titles. They had, what was that game called? They had some kind of hack-and-slash thing where it was like a sword-fighting game that came out when the PlayStation 3 launched. This game is extremely critically acclaimed, and it's a high-scoring, well-reviewed title that did not sell well at all. And I think kind of it set Ninja Theory back. They were expecting this to be a big hit. The backstory plot is based on the classic Chinese novel, which is Journey to the West, which is about the Monkey King. So this is kind of a modern interpretation, or modern, kind of game that's got some futuristic, dystopian kind of levels. This was neat. This is a fun game. I think a lot more people could have bought this if it was a little bit better advertised. Next up, we have Formula One Championship Edition. I think this is from 2007 or 2008 because it's got the Renault, the blue and yellow Renault car on the front. I'm a big fan of Formula One racing. The racing games have been hit or miss for me. This was the last one done by the previous developer, I think. This was published in-house by Sony. Doesn't say who the developer was, but I know the later games in the series, like F1 2010, which is still sealed. This was done by Codemasters, which has released a bunch of... I think it's by Codemasters. Look through here and see what it says. Yeah, Codemasters. They put out a whole bunch of rallying games. So I have F1 2011. I do not have the 2012, and I don't think the 2013 one came out on PlayStation 3. I'm not positive on that, though. But these are both still sealed. These were cheapies that I picked up on Newegg when they were clearancing them. We've got Fist of the North Star: Ken's Rage. This game should have been called Dynasty Warriors: Fist of the North Star. It is by Koei. It is the standard Dynasty Warriors kind of fighting, but with the Fist of the North Star's anime license. This game I played a lot, way too much of, probably 20 or 30 hours. I beat it multiple times with different characters. The fighting was a little bit slower paced, but more technical than the Dynasty Warriors games were. There is a sequel to this, which is Ken's Rage 2. That is a download-only title, and I own that on the PlayStation 3. We next have God of War 3. This is really good. I don't know if this was... I think the key creator of the God of War franchise had moved on to a different company, but majority of his developer team was probably still in place. So this game was pretty good, even without its creator still at the helm. We have Grand Theft Auto 4. I'll be honest, I did not play all that much of this one. I couldn't get into this or San Andreas. I thought that they started off too slow, and I was unable to get into them. I know this one is well regarded, and people have played hundreds and hundreds of hours on this game, but I just couldn't get into the story. It was kind of a Eastern European mobster kind of story, which was not my cup of tea. The more recent one, Grand Theft Auto 5, this game is a blast. I think I'm about 60% through this right now. I haven't beat it yet, but I've gotten pretty far. And I like the three main character thing where you can switch between them at any time. I think that's like breathing some fresh air into a franchise that's been out for quite a bit that kind of is getting a little stale. But this was a lot of fun. We have Gran Turismo 5 Prologue, which should be called Gran Turismo 5 the demo that you pay $40 for. You know, it was the first release. I think the PlayStation 3 had been out for a little bit. Sony was chomping at the bit to get a Gran Turismo game out. Gran Turismo 5 was epically and publicly delayed for, I think, multiple years before it came out, as Polyphony Digital was trying to perfect and do their overboard kind of inclusion of every single car you could ever think of, except for Porsches. So this was basically the demo that was sold at a reduced price. I think they actually included a coupon in there if you bought Gran Turismo 5 later. I don't know if I ever redeemed that or not, but I did go ahead and buy Gran Turismo 5, which was, you know, I think I didn't play as much of this as I did Gran Turismo 3 and 4 on the PlayStation 2. It had a lot of online features that basically required you to log in every day, but there was lots and lots and lots of patches that you had to download for this and wait for, you know, I have a fast internet connection, but still, I mean, it's a pain in the butt when you put a game in and you have to wait 40 minutes for the, you know, 2 gig patch to download if you haven't played it in a few months. And then I also have Gran Turismo 6, which is the most recent one. This one has kind of a more accessible single-player mode. This just came out within the last week or two. I'm not that too far into it. I'm still doing the beginner missions and the novice race series where you basically only have a few cars, but I'm liking what I'm seeing so far. So next we have the Ico and Shadow of the Colossus Collection. As I stated in the PlayStation 2 video, I'm a big fan of both of these games. It seemed only natural to pick them up in a kind of a remastered version, and it's even got the classic Ico art, which never made it to the States. Does support 3D. I haven't played it in 3D for only, you know, a brief amount of time. I don't own a 3D TV, but I know people that do. You know, I've checked it out. It's fun. It's definitely fun. It's, you know, it's basically the games you love looking even better on the PlayStation 3, and it's in a widescreen, high def, 1080p. Everything's all good to go. We have a sealed copy of Katamari Forever. This is, I think, the only PlayStation 3 version of the Katamari Damacy series. Obviously, haven't played it because the plastic is still on it. I think I got this as a extreme discount on, you know, Newegg.com or Amazon or something like that. I like that series, but probably not enough to open this and start playing it right away. We have, continuing with the King of Fighters games, we have King of Fighters 12 and King of Fighters 13, which are triumphant returns of 2D graphics. I don't know if either of these got arcade releases in Japan, but I remember these are both pretty good. These are both open. They're played through. Not a heck of a lot. Fighting games are kind of becoming, you know, love it or hate it. I think less and less people are playing them, so the people you face if you want to play online in these, you're basically going to get your butt kicked by someone who's played the game for hundreds of hours. We have The Last of Us, which is one of the best games that came out in 2013. I think I'm about halfway through this. I haven't beaten it yet, but it's really good. It's, you know, I've liked what I've seen so far. I should probably take this out of the collection here and take it back downstairs and try to finish this off, maybe over winter break, but we'll see. We have the Little Big Planet Game of the Year collection. This is a platformer puzzle game that basically had a lot of user-creatable, extra downloaded content. You can make your own levels and things like that. These are fun. It's kind of quirky. It's got this little, you know, knitted up character, I think they called Sackboy, that you play as, and you basically run around as a 2D platformer and, you know, pick things up, gather items, and I think the more items you pick up on stages, the more things you can use in the create a mission mode. I'm not very creative, you know, personally. I know there's a lot of people that get these games and they go hours and hours making their own missions and things like that, but that's just not my deal. We have L.A. Noire. This is the Greatest Hits edition. This is developed by a studio in Australia that spent a heck of a lot of time on it, released it, the game was a huge hit, and then I think they got closed down by their publisher. So I don't know if they'll ever make another one. If they do, it'll probably be by a different developer. But this was kind of neat. I think I got maybe 5 to 10 hours into it. It's a detective game where there's elements of, You know, like the controls are kind of like a Grand Theft Auto game, but obviously you're a cop. You can't just run around shooting people. And I remember there's a interrogation mode aspect of it where you have to really study the clues that you've picked up on, and if you ask people the wrong questions, you basically have to restart. We have Mass Effect 2. This is the only game in the Mass Effect series that I own on a console. I have the first two through Steam, and I know that these are well regarded. It's just I don't have time, you know, to go and start an RPG that's going to take 80, 100 hours. Got this as a gift. If I'm going to play through them, I'm going to play through them on the PC so that I can import my save game to the next game in the series. We have... This is Marvel vs. Capcom 3, The Fate of Two Worlds. This is the limited edition, collector's edition of the game. It comes in this steel book kind of case. This was a lot of fun. I still wish that Capcom knew how to make 2D games because I don't think these things really translate into 3D that well. The hit detection isn't as smooth and perfect as the 2D hit detection, so it's just kind of a different vibe you get. We also have the expansion for this, which is called Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3. We've got Metal Gear Solid 4, which is the most recent one in the series that's by the main group. Metal Gear Solid 5 is being worked on right now. I think that'll be out in 2014. This was really cool. As far as I know, it's a PlayStation 3 exclusive. That is a lot of fun. I played all the way through that. When I bought this game, it did not leave the PlayStation 3 until I beat the game, which is a good sign. I had to kind of mix around quite a bit of things these days, and I pick games up, I buy new ones, I don't finish the ones that I've had, but I remember playing through this game basically straight through until I beat it. We have, I think, the only collection that I have on the PlayStation 3. I think there's a Sega Genesis one that's called Sonic's Sega Genesis Collection that's a PlayStation 3 title. I haven't picked that one up yet, but this is the Midway Arcade Origins. For those who don't know, Midway is one of the more famous of the American developers of arcade games. They're probably more known to a modern audience as the... trying to get this to focus. We have... I think they're more known as the Mortal Kombat Company. But they also put out a lot of classic games. You got, Joust, Defender, Gauntlet, and then some more obscure things like Tubin and Vindicators, and then extremely obscure things like Wizard of War. Pit Fighters on here, which is kind of neat. Robotron 2084, one of my favorite games of all time. This is fun. So I like how they're putting more and more titles on these collections. I mean, you could definitely fit probably every arcade game ever made on one Blu-ray disc. So these are... kind of, this is 30 plus games, it says, from the golden age of arcade gaming, and I would definitely agree with that. We have MotorStorm. This is the not for resale copy. This was a pack-in with the PlayStation 3 that I originally purchased. This is kind of a neat racing game with off-road rules. You don't get penalized for bumping into the other racers on the course, and you're kind of encouraged to do that. This is a pack-in game that came with a system. I'll be honest, I did not play too much of it. We have purchased this recently. This is the most recent Mortal Kombat game. This is the complete collection, which has all of the DLC packs included. I only played about an hour of this. I played a couple of online matches, got my butt kicked. I don't have a whole group of friends that I can play this stuff with in person, which kind of defeats the purpose of having fighting games unless you're playing them just to beat the computer. But I was never a gigantic fan of the Mortal Kombat series. I think they was kind of made to just be, shocking with the level of violence that they could portray on the, ones in the mid-90s. I know there's a lot of people that own every game in this franchise, but that's not me. I did buy the most recent one. This was a discount title, so I figured why not pick it up. We have Ni no Kuni, Wrath of the White Witch. This is by Level 5 Studios. This is a 3D RPG in the tradition of other things like Dragon Quest VIII, which was developed by the same developer. This has a anime graphic style. The game looks like an anime, basically. And this has a pretty cool story. I'm about 30 hours into this, but I have not beat it yet. We have Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion. I think I picked this up based on the recommendation of some people I knew. I had not played any of the games in the Elder Scrolls series up to this point. I could not get that too far into this. It has a very slow open where you have to escape from this jail and you're not really sure what's going on. I did not get too far into this, but I got Skyrim, Elder Scroll 5 for the PC, which I've played, probably 100 hours on. I also subsequently owned this and Elder Scroll 3 Morrowind on PC, but the graphics kind of have aged quite a bit, which is, haven't had a chance to dive into those just yet. We also have here Portal 2. This is a series by Valve. The only reason I have the PlayStation 3 version of this is because when you bought it, it came with a code that you could activate to play the game on Steam, and it was basically the same price. So instead of pre-ordering it on Steam, I bought the PlayStation 3 one and typed the code into Steam to earn the game. So I basically got 2 copies of the game for the price of one. Haven't played the PlayStation 3 version of it yet, though. Have beaten it on the PC, though. Okay, we have the last stack now. So we're on R through Z. So starting out, we have Red Dead Redemption, the Greatest Hits Edition, which includes all the DLC. Have this. Haven't had a chance to really get into it. I played a little bit at the beginning. And basically, the vibe I get is that it's a Grand Theft Auto Western, which, could be fun. I have heard quite a bit of positive recommendations for this title, though, so I will try to go ahead and play through this when I get time, of course. We have Resident Evil 5 and Resident Evil 5 Gold Edition, which I think is basically everything fixed with all the DLC. I am a huge fan of Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 4, and pretty much I also have played Code Veronica, which was released on the Dreamcast, and then it was re-released on the PlayStation 2. I could not get into this. It was started out with a higher difficulty level, and you're in this African town, and I wasn't really sure what the heck was going on. Could not get into this at all. So, if people want to leave a comment and tell me it's worth playing through, I definitely will. I also have Resident Evil 6, which I got after it was lowered in price, which the buzz on the internet is this one is horrible. So I haven't played it yet. But if anyone wants to correct me and tell me that they're worth playing, and me being a fan of Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 4, if you want to, recommend it based on, will I like these based on those games, that would be helpful. We have Silent Hill Homecoming, which is one of the newer Silent Hill games that is not developed by Konami in-house. I think all the new ones that have come out have been by an American developer. I did not play this, I'll be honest. I just remember picking it up when it was on sale. I know that they released a PlayStation 3 collection of the earlier Silent Hill games, which was basically ripped apart on review. I think they made some very questionable decisions in the restoration of the title. I know that there was a lot of negative press before it came out because they were re-recording all the voice actors and everything like that, but I think that the ports that came out, I think it's called the Silent Hill Collection, which I do not own, but I remember hearing that it was not well done. We have the Street Fighter 4 games, which are the 3 that are out. There is Street Fighter 4, there is Super Street Fighter 4, and then there's Super Street Fighter 4 Arcade Edition, which I think this is pretty rare, because the Arcade Edition was released as a DLC, but they also released it on physical disc for people who either don't have an internet connection or have a slow internet connection, or prefer, like I do, the physical copy as something that you can hold and own. Street Fighter 4 is fun, but like I've said before, I'm not a gigantic fan of Capcom's 3D games. I know these games have their fans. They do play these at tournaments like EVO and things like that, but I kind of wish that they had gone the route of what Arc System Works did with the Guilty Gear games. I kind of wish Capcom still had a strong 2D fighting game development team still out there, still making games, but what are you going to do? I mean, it is 2013. We also have Street Fighter X Tekken, which I believe is pronounced Street Fighter Cross Tekken. This is the special edition of the game. How could I not buy this? I mean, it's Street Fighter and Tekken in the same package. This I remember being okay. We've got Soul Calibur 4 for PlayStation 3, which has, why, I don't know, but it has Darth Vader. For whatever reason, I don't know if Namco was trying to get more people to buy the Soul Calibur games, but they started doing these bizarre cross promotions. Like Soul Calibur 3 had Hayachi from Tekken. Soul Calibur 4's got a bunch of characters from the Star Wars games, which I don't know why, if they were just trying to get more Americans to buy these, or just kind of something, I don't know. But this one was not bad. Soul Calibur 5, however, I really like this one. This is the limited edition, and you got this guy on here that says, you know, you bought this limited edition. That came in an extremely large box, which I may show in a different video if I show all the limited editions and special packaging that I have. But this game was fun. I know a lot of people think that the Soul Calibur series hasn't really done too much since the early days, namely like Soul Calibur 2, but, you know, I beg to differ. I still have a lot of fun with them. We have Tekken 6, which is okay, not really all that memorable to me. I did play a little bit of it when it came out. I don't have an arcade stick, but you know that doesn't really matter. But this game was okay. We have Tekken Hybrid, which is kind of strange. This is a 3D anime Tekken movie, which I absolutely did not watch. The only reason I bought this is because it came with an HD version of Tekken Tag Tournament on the second disc, which I think you just basically put it in and it installs to the hard drive of the PlayStation 3 and you never need the disc again, which is cool. And then we have Tekken Tag Tournament 2, which I think this came out in 2012. This is the most recent game in the series that's on physical disc. Only recently did I find out that there is a new Tekken game that I think is called Tekken Revolution, which is a free-to-play, which I don't know what the heck Namco is thinking. If they really have less and less people buying fighting games, maybe they should just, you know, release a collection of some of their older things, or maybe lower the price on these ones instead of going the free-to-play route, which I think is a bad idea. We have Tony Hawk's Project 8. This is the only game in the Tony Hawk series that I own. I think this is the last one that came out. I bought this. I used to play the PlayStation 2 ones quite a bit that other people had. We used to play Tony Hawk 2, Tony Hawk 3 a lot back in the day. So when I got my PlayStation 3, I went and looked for budget titles like the Bionic Commando, and this was one of them. I don't think I played more than 20 or 30 minutes to this because it just didn't feel like that iconic Tony Hawk experience, but whatever, what are you going to do? We have Under Defeat HD Deluxe Edition, which I think a lot of people don't even know this exists. This is one of the very few shoot-'em-ups, or, you know, I should say shooters, that is on the PlayStation 3 or on any modern console for that matter. This was a Dreamcast game, which was an import-only title, that got a late... what year did this come out? 2012. This got a late PlayStation 3 release. I don't think there's probably too many of these out here. I'm willing to bet that this is uncommon, if not rare. This was kind of a helicopter shooting game where you can rotate the helicopter different ways and move around the screen and shoot things. It's a shoot 'em up. If you like shooters, you know, this is above average. It's not incredibly memorable, but I did pick it up because it was on sale. And we're down to the last two or three titles here. We have Valkyria Chronicles, which is a turn-based strategy game. This was incredibly rare. I don't know if it still is. I don't know if it's been reissued. This has a kind of an anime character, but gritty, realistic graphic thing. It's basically a imaginary World War II sort of time period in fictional countries. That this is neat. It has a third-person movement system where you get action points and you kind of move around on the map, and then you know, expend your action points to pick at the enemies you're going to take shots at. And of course it's Japanese, so it's got a grading system based on how well you do on each mission. Do you get an A, B, C, or an S ranking? Which just seems to be things that the Japanese developers do. But there's two sequels to this that I think were PSP-only titles. I don't know if they even came out in the States, but I don't have either of them. And then the last game is Virtual Fighter 5. This is one of the titles I got when the system first came out. Like I said before, Virtual Fighters either love it or hate it. It's extremely technical. I know it has its fans in Japan. I never really got too far into Virtual Fighter. I was more of a Tekken and Street Fighter fan. But that's the last game in the collection here, and I did go through and count them. There is 65, so I was a little off the mark. I didn't realize I had that many. So, but I hope you liked the video. Hope you comment, and thanks again for watching. Bye. Just a quick addendum to the previous collection video that I just did. I wanted to show off some of the special big boxes that I have for the limited edition PlayStation 3 games. I do have these in a different part of the house because the boxes are so big they don't fit with everything else. But we have the Soul Calibur 4 Collector's Edition. We have, I should say, Soul Calibur 5 Collector's Edition, the Soul Calibur 4 Collector's Edition, which is, I think it says Premium Edition, and this does come in a metal tin. We have the Dead Space 2 Collector's Edition, which comes in this giant box, and I think it had a battery-powered plasma cutter as a pack-in. And then we have the Gran Turismo 5 Collector's Edition. I think this was $100. This came with a keychain and a die-cast Nissan GTR in the package. And then it had some, I think, exclusive DLC for the game, which unlocks some cars. And then we have this is the Street Fighter Cross Tekken Special Edition, which comes in this giant box with, you know, some stuff that I'm never going to look at. So, thanks again for watching.